Start the translation. We could read this together also. Purpose of performing sacrifices to please Him, realizing all fruit activities are ultimately rewarded by Him. He is supreme knowledge, and also the austerities belong to Him. Religion, dharma, is rendering living service. He is the supreme goal. I know some of you are really new, and I don't know how many you've ever heard of the terms Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. Sambandha refers to our relationship with Krishna. Abhidaya refers to acting on that relationship. And Prayojana refers to achieving the ultimate goal of having reestablished our birthday relationship with Krishna. Every verse in the Bhagavatam can fall into one of those three categories. In this particular one, you can see all three of them. Abhidaya, a knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. And revealed scripture is the ultimate object of knowledge of Sri Krishna, the personality of God. Abhidaya, acting on that. The purpose of performing sacrifices is to please Him. Yoga is for realizing Him. All fruit of activity is ultimately rewarded by Him. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know Him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto Him. He is the supreme goal of life. Okay, I'll be stopping fairly frequently. So someone can start with it. You're second for the last one.
That Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship is confirmed in these two shlokas. In the Vedic literature, there is the same objective, establishing one's relationship and ultimately reviving our lost loving service unto Him. That is the sum and substance of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita, the same theory is confirmed by the Lord in His own words. The ultimate purpose of the Vedas is to know Him only.
Okay, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15. Shavasa Chehanda, the Sanyusta, the Tasmiti Gyana, Pavanam Cha, Vedas Chasabura, Neva Veda. I'm seeking everyone's heart of newcome remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to know.
All the revealed scriptures are prepared by the Lord through His incarnation in the body of Srila Vyasadeva, just to remind the fallen souls, conditioned by material nature, of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. No demigod can award freedom from material bondage. That is the verdict of all the Vedic literatures. Impersonalists who have no information of the personality of Godhead minimize the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord and put Him on equal footing with all other living beings. And for this act, such impersonalists get freedom from material bondage only with great difficulty. They can surrender unto Him only after many, many births in the culture of transcendental knowledge.
Can anyone name the three aspects of the absolute truth? Johnson? Oh.
Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan.
Right. So Brahman is the impersonal effulgence. Paramatma is the goal of the yogis to realize the localized aspect of the super soul in the heart. And Bhagavan is the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Can anyone give that analogy of the sun that describes these three? It's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's on different places. Oh, okay. Jackson?
Brahman is like the essence of the sun. It's like the pervading heat and from the rays of the sun, and Paramatma is like the body of the sun. It's like the actual substance of the physical sun, and then Bhagavan is its entirety. It's like the sun itself, the inner core, and like all of its qualities.
Okay, good. Yeah, the Brahman is compared to the sunshine, and Paramatma is compared to the sun's surface. And Bhagavan is compared to entering into the sun globe and meeting the sun god. We shouldn't reject the statements of the scripture just because they don't tally with our experience or our understanding. A week or 10 days ago, when we heard that class by Prabhupada, he was talking about how the beings on earth are made mostly of earth. So the beings in the sun, they're made mostly of fire. I've heard the moon is an ethereal planet. The beings on earth are also made largely of water, and there's airs blowing through the universe, and the yogis manipulate the pranayama, the airs within the body, to achieve their mystic perfections. So you have all five of the great elements right there: earth, water, fire, air, wind, and ether. These aren't primitive calculations. They're just something. They're just a way of looking at things. Even our modern periodic table, you can put all the elements under one of those five categories: gas, earth. So there's different lists. There's two or three different lists, at least in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. In Sankhya philosophy, there's 24 elements, with soul as the 25th element. It's just different ways of looking at things. Actually, the scientists in NASA, they are trying to build a moon rocket, apparently. The problem is they've been working on it for 10 years, maybe closer to 15 by now. I haven't heard anything about it for 5 years. Since the end of the Apollo program, the moon mission, in the late 60s and early 70s, the highest manned flights have only been 200, 400, or at the most maybe 600 miles. I think the space station is 400 miles. I asked Murli Gopal about why it's taken the scientists so long to build a moon rocket. And he said they're trying to use an abundance of caution. Yeah, they scrapped the space shuttle because it was too dangerous. One blew up shortly after takeoff. Another one disintegrated after re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. So 55 years later, we're still the only country in the world that claims to put men on the moon. With the technology we had back then, I don't know. Apparently, we may not have the technology nowadays either. So you may believe this, you may not. It's up to you. Personally, every time I look up at the moon, it gets harder to believe. So, and as far as going to Mars, we've been talking about that since the end of the Apollo program also. And 50 years later, they're no closer than they were then. So, okay. Second paragraph, somebody? You may believe this, we may not.
One may argue that the Vedic activities are based on sacrificial ceremonies. That is true. But all such sacrifices are also meant for realizing the truth of Vasudeva. Another name of Vasudeva is Yagya? Did I pronounce that correctly? Yagya, sacrifice. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that all sacrifices and all activities are to be conducted for the satisfaction of Yagya, or Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. This is the case also with the yoga systems. Yoga means to get in touch with the Supreme Lord. The process, however, includes several bodily features such as asana, dhyana, pranayama, and meditation. and of all of them are meant for concentrating upon the localized aspect of Vasudeva, represented as Paramatma. Paramatma realization is but partial realization of Vasudeva, and if one is successful in that attempt, one realizes Vasudeva in full. But by ill luck, most yogis are stranded by the powers of mysticism, achieved through the bodily process. Ill-fated yogis are given a chance in the next birth by being placed in the families of good learned brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants in order to execute the unfinished tasks of Vasudeva realization. If such fortunate brahmanas and sons of rich men properly utilize the chance, they can easily realize Vasudeva by good association with saintly persons. Unfortunately, such preferred persons are captivated again by material wealth and honor, and thus they practically forget the aim of life. This is also so for the culture of knowledge. According to Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 items in culture of knowledge.
Okay, hold on. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 8 through 12. There's more than 18. There's more than 18 items in this list. Maybe because of the way the words are translated from Sanskrit into English, or maybe a different. It's the one in the Bible. You want to read that?
Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unallowed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth, all these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
Okay, continue.
By such culture of knowledge,
By such by culture of knowledge.
By such culture of knowledge, one becomes gradually prideless, devoid of vanity, non-violent, forbearing, simple, devoted to the great spiritual master, and self-controlled. By culture of knowledge, one becomes unattached to hearth, I don't know what that means, and home, and becomes conscious of the miseries due to death, birth, old age, and disease. And all culture of knowledge culminates in devotional service to the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Therefore, Vasudeva is the ultimate aim in culturing all different branches of knowledge. Culture of knowledge leading one to the transcendental plane of meeting Vasudeva is real knowledge. Physical knowledge in its various branches is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita as Ajnana, or the opposite of real knowledge. The ultimate aim of physical knowledge is to satisfy the senses, which means prolongation of the term of material existence, and thereby continuance of the threefold miseries. So prolonging the miserable life of material existence is nescience. But the same physical knowledge leading to the way of spiritual understanding helps one to end the miserable life of physical existence and to begin the life of spiritual existence on the plane of Vasudeva.
This is discussed in the Sri Upanishad in text 9 through 11, culminating in text 11, where it says, only those who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated births and deaths and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. This is kind of what we're talking about between material knowledge and spiritual knowledge. Prabhupada was not against higher education. If we get members in high levels of society, You have to see it through the eyes of scriptures and the acharyas and the great sages. And then benefit us. Somebody the next paragraph.
Applies to all kinds of austerities. Tapasya means
Sorry. Tapasya and penance, Prabhupada uses almost simultaneously. Tapasya is described here. It says means voluntary acceptance of bodily pains to achieve some higher end in life. Penance mainly refers to more like atonement of sins, like penitentiary. Prabhupada uses the two different terms almost synonymously. Okay, you can go on.
means voluntary acceptance of bodily pains to achieve some higher end of life. Ravana and Hiranyakashipu underwent a severe type of bodily torture to achieve the end of sense gratification. Sometimes modern politicians also undergo severe types of austerity to achieve some political end. This is not actual tapasya. One should accept voluntarily bodily inconvenience for the sake of knowing Vyasadeva, because that is the way of real austerities. Otherwise, all forms of austerities are classified as modes of passion and ignorance. Passion and ignorance cannot end the miseries of life. Only the mode of goodness can mitigate the threefold miseries of life.
Mitigate means decrease. I like that woman's analogy. It was here a month or so ago. Somebody said she was the mother of Gauravani. She gave class. She was saying about the mode of goodness is like going to the airport to reach the destination of California or New York, which is pseudoscientific or transcendental to the three modes of material nature. To get to pseudoscientific, first you have to get to the plane of sattvic goodness, which is compared to the airport. Okay.
Vasudeva and Devaki, the so-called father and mother of the Lord Krishna, underwent penance to get Vasudeva as their son. Lord Sri Krishna is the father of all living beings. Therefore, he is the original living being of all other living beings. He is the original eternal enjoyer amongst all enjoyers. Therefore, no one can be his begetting father, as the ignorant may think. Lord Sri Krishna agreed to become the son of Vasudeva and Devaki upon being pleased with their severe austerities. Therefore, if any austerity has to be done, it must be done to achieve the end of knowledge. Vasudeva.
Okay, we can name the 5 primary rasas or relationships we have with Krishna. We'd like to know these. Okay, cool.
Conjugal, servitor, like a friendship, like coward. Parental.
Jonathan. Neutrality. Envy is actually it is one of the rasas, but it's not one of the 5 primary rasas. It's one of 12 indirect. Yeah, so nowhere in any of Prabhupada's teachings does it say the only relationships we could have with Krishna are neutrality, servitorship, and friendship. It says right here that Lord Sri Krishna agreed to become the son of Vasudeva and Devaki upon being pleased with their severe austerities. So it's described that when Krishna Lila ends up in one universe, it immediately begins in another universe, like the sun is simultaneously rising and setting in different places of the earth continually. And I heard a conversation by Prabhupada where a devotee asked Prabhupada if Devaki and Vasudeva went back to Godhead after Krishna Lila, who's going to be Krishna's parents in the next universe? And Prabhupada said, there's many universes, why can't Krishna have many sets of parents? We're trying to make Krishna limited. Krishna's unlimited. Also, in the teachings of the gopis, the jiva can also qualify itself to enter into the rasa. Okay, this is the sixth paragraph, Bruce, coming.
Vasudeva is the original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. As explained before, the original personality of Godhead expands himself by innumerable forms. Such expansions of forms is made possible by his various energies. His energies are also multifarious, and his internal energies are superior and external energies inferior in quality.
Okay, yeah, Krishna's energies are unlimited, but the great saints and sages have divided them into three categories: internal, external, and marginal. The internal energies are spiritual, the external energies are material, and the marginal energy is the living entity. The living entity can associate with either the material nature or the spiritual nature, but since he's spiritual by constitution, if he's in association with the material nature, he's to be considered in a sort of diseased condition of life.
They are explained in the Bhagavad Gita as the para and the apara prakritis. So his expansions of various forms which take place via the internal energies are superior forms, whereas the expansions which take place via the external energies are inferior forms. The living entities are also his expansions. The living entities who are expanded by his internal potency are eternally liberated souls, whereas those who are expanded in terms of the material energies are eternally conditioned souls. Therefore, all culture of knowledge, austerities, sacrifice, and activities should be aimed at changing the quality of the influence that is acting upon us. For the present, we are all being controlled by the external energy of the Lord. And just to change the quality of the influence, we must endeavor to cultivate spiritual energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that those who are Mahatmas, or those whose minds have been so broadened as to be engaged in the service of Lord Krishna, are under the influence of the internal potency. And the effect is that such broad-minded living beings are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord without deviation. That should be the aim of life. And that is the verdict of all the Vedic literatures. No one should bother himself with fruitive activities or dry speculation about transcendental knowledge. Everyone should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Nor should one worship different demigods who work as different hands of the Lord for creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. There are innumerable powerful demigods who look over the external management of the material world.
Okay. Does anyone know what it says in our scriptures about how many demigods there are? Have you heard that name? 33 million. So there's 33 million demigods according to our scriptures. When you consider there's over 7 billion people on the earth and billions of entities that occupy every inch of space, 33 million demigods for the maintenance and operation of the universe is so phenomenal. Okay, we're almost through the whole thing, Bruce. You can just finish.
They are all different assisting hands of the Lord of Vasudeva. Even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are included in the list of demigods, but Lord Vishnu or Vasudeva is always transcendentally situated. Even though he accepts the quality of goodness of the material world, he is still transcendental to all material modes. The following example will clear that matter more explicitly. In the prison house, there are the prisoners and the managers of the prison house. Both the managers and the prisoners are bound by the laws of the king. But even though the king sometimes comes to the prison, he is not bound by the laws of the prison house. The king is therefore always transcendental to the laws of the prison house, as the Lord is always transcendental to the laws of the material world.
Okay, that's the whole thing. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I like in the purport how Prabhupada was saying that we can broaden You said the word broaden, and that's really yeah,
On our minds, not
yeah, broaden our minds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bruce,
I want to ask, what does he mean by broaden?
what you mean by broaden?
Broaden the mind.
Oh, broaden the mind. Well, these concepts in the Bhagavatam, I mean, if you tell them to like an ordinary scientist or an ordinary scholar, they're going to say, you know, you're crazy. So, broad-minded means being able to at least look at these with an open mind, maybe not. Prabhupada says in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita that if one can at least theoretically accept Krishna as God, then there's a possibility we can understand. So we have to come first to that platform, at least theoretically accept the possibility that Krishna is God, and these scriptures may be actually bona fide, but telling us the absolute truth. It takes some broadening of the mind.
With this theme of austerity and tapasya, I've heard in classes before that we don't need to like seek austerity. The 4 regs are austerity enough. But is that really true?
Yes, it is definitely. Chanting 16 rounds, taking Krishna Prasad and following the 4 regular principles is enough austerity. Yes. Too much austerity can make your heart hard. And it's a joyous process. And singing, dancing, chanting, taking Krishna Prasad. Okay.
I noticed that he really drove home the word culture and cultivate. He used it a lot of times in his purport. And I just think of yogurt when like you need a culture of bacteria and you have to cultivate it at a certain temperature to coagulate and make yogurt. And that's just everything that we're doing here. Kind of like what Nate said. We're doing all of that austerity. I just think it's so clever because it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything like austere.
That's going definitely. Most people can't imagine following the 4 principles.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Speaking about culture and yogurt, I want to appreciate this statement in the purport here that sons of a rich man, they can properly utilize the chance, they can easily realize Vasudeva by good association with saintly persons. So that's another point. We just have to put ourselves within the good culture, and then by osmosis, there's like exchange of qualities. And
associate with drunkards, you become a drunkard. Dwaita is probably the only one. Dwaita is the only one here in the room. He was probably only about maybe 2 or 3 years old, I guess, when the mission went. It was over 50 years ago. Most of you, it was decades before you were even born when we supposed to be. I've been following this for 50 years. I read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita when I was 14 or 15 years old. My whole family were from NASA practically, except for my younger sister. I even worked out there for a while in the cafeteria. And just every once in a while you'll hear something that just doesn't really add up. It just doesn't make any sense. So you may believe it or you may not. It's up to you. Anything?
yeah, in the purport, I just wanted to appreciate the call to action where he said, instead of engaging in fruitive activity, dry speculation, everyone should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So it's like a call for action instead of like staying idle and thinking and kind of maybe, running yourself around in a circle. And then my next thought on that is like Srila Prabhupada, just with his mission, he brought us service that we could do that directly connects us and engages us with Krishna. So not only did he like tell us to act, but he gave us actions that we could do as well.
Yeah, some days chant the Krishna Prasad. If you want to know why to do this, that's why the scriptures are there. I've heard it explained.
I think Jonathan made a really good point about the call to action. And I struggle with that personally because I feel like I have to get all my ducks in a row to even do anything. Like I have to do this and do that and do this, and then I'll start doing my main quest. So it's just like jumping into doing the service, and everything you'll need to know will be figured out in that service, I believe, where all your insecurities are gonna come up one way or another. Like Jonathan's bossing me around in my mind. I'm like, I'm cursing him, but like that's something that I have to work through. So by heeding the call to action and immersing yourself in devotional service, I'm really beginning to see that that's how it wipes away the dust of your heart. Without even speculating, you'll just figure it out along the way.
The process Prabhupada gave us is pure devotional service. The morning program, reading the literatures, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting, taking Krishna Prasad, and associating with devotees. All that's pure devotional service. So even though we may not be pure devotees, when we engage in this process that Prabhupada gave us, we're performing pure devotional service in this gradually pure process. Jonathan?
Oh, and one more thing behind what you had just said about how we're not pure at heart and we're not pure devotees, but by engaging in pure devotional service, it's as if we are. And I had just read that Srila Prabhupada, in one of his purports, he had the analogy as if you have a master mechanic or technician, like a NASA, let's say you have a NASA master engineer and you're an apprentice and you're working with him, the work that you're doing is still on a masterful level, even though you're not, just because you're shadowing under him. So if we're shadowing in this process of pure devotional service given to us by pure devotees, then every action that we're doing, even if we're not perfect, is perfection.
And the absolute highest goal we can possibly achieve is service to the Vaishnavas. It's the highest possible goal. And we get that from the very first day of Krishna consciousness. Great. Did you have something to say? About anything? You look like you might have something to say.
When you're speaking and I get a chance to ask questions to you, I always try to take advantage to see if you can share, your favorite experiences here in Krishna House, being so long, you've seen so much. What are some of the highlights in the last, how many years you were here?
Well, February will be 30 years. I'm on my fourth temple president. So. When I first got here, Gaurav Brahma was president, and there were usually only about 2 or 3 or 4 of us running the whole program. We used to do between 250 and 350 people a day on campus, and maybe 60 or 90 during the summer. We asked we asked $1 a plate. We averaged about a quarter. And we used to get 12-pound cases of butter from the government. We'd fill up one of those 12-gallon pots full of butter on a Friday evening. And like the confectionery stove over in the Bhakti house, the oven open like this, take the racks out, stick 12 gallons of butter in there on a Friday evening, and take it out Monday morning, pour it into these big brute containers, ghee, by Monday morning, put it at a real low temperature. With 2 deep fat fryers for ghee. Dar used to cook this one preparation. All it was broccoli and cubed potatoes, salt, pepper, asafetida, deep fried in ghee. And it was out of this world. Now we have soy oil and tofu. So, actually, the ghee. Most of the fats go into the solids. Most of the fats and the salts go into the solids. And of course, you can use those also to make breads and chapatis and stuff. And then the next president, Sabyasachi, came along, and he completely renovated the kitchen. He took out the deep fat fryers. The government cut us off with butter at one point. I guess they decided we were making too much money or something. We used to get it for free in 12-pound cases, like a dozen at a time, sometimes more. But so Sabyasachi took out the deep fat fryers and he put in the 2 braziers. He put in that big walk-in cooler in the back of the kitchen there. And by the time he left, we were up to 700 people on campus. And then Kalakanta took over. Still, through all this up to this point, even though we were beginning to do really well on campus, we had nobody come by here. Nobody ever came by. Evening programs, if we got 1 or 2 students, it was like a really big deal. It was just mostly devotees. I remember we used to have a Sunday program and a Wednesday program. And on Sunday, these devotees, they'd go to our Alachua, get their free prasadam, come here and then get more free prasadam. I mean, they kind of used to you a little bit. They never listed donation or anything, but I mean, householders. So Sabyasachi really got it going, and then Kalakanta took over. And first we started serving off the front porch, and people started coming around to the actual house. And sometimes they'd come inside, and then they'd get a little bit interested. And then Kalakanta started the Bhakti program, so students could learn about Bhakti Yoga and go to school at the same time. You didn't have to be a student like many of us today, some of us are, some aren't. And I guess our best year ever was the year after COVID. We were doing between 800 and 1,600 people a day. I think that was actually our best year. And the price has only gone up $3. I mean, Sabyasachi raised it to $5. It's only gone up $3 in like the past 10 or 20 years, which isn't so bad. I'm not exactly sure why we're struggling so hard right now. Hopefully it'll pick back up. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Oh, one other thing. To tell you how much things have changed. When I first got here, it was don't break the regular principles on the property. Those were the regular principles back then. So things have changed quite a bit since then.
I'm actually glad I asked. Very glad I asked.
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. No, they're all different. They're all different. They're always my foot in the door. So of course, it's a special place in my heart. Kalakanta's done an incredible job, and Sabyasachi, he's the one who got the campus program rolling so well. So they're all 3 good. They're just different. Well, now Shruti. Shruti's a good president. He's doing a great job. Anything else? 3:30 is Prashadam ready? Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.